Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're doing a deep dive into something I know you've been curious about, tokenized gold.
Yeah, it's really cool.
You've been sending over some really fascinating articles about this.
It's pretty cutting edge.
Yeah, so we're going to take a closer look. Now, I think the easiest way to describe this is
How about gold, but
yes,
without the hassle?
owning gold, but without needing,
Yeah, and all the downsides.
yeah, without needing like a treasure chest.
Right. So some of the things that we're going to be looking at today in this deep dive include enhanced liquidity, streamlined estate planning,
Ooh.
and potential tax advantages.
Yeah, there's some really interesting stuff there.
Yeah, so let's just jump right in.
Okay.
So what is tokenized gold?
Well, as you said, it's like a digital version of physical gold.
Yeah.
So you're not actually holding the gold in your hand, but you own a token that represents that gold.
Okay, so it's almost like a digital deed.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a digital deed to a piece of gold that's stored securely somewhere.
Okay, so not Fort Knox, but like a digital vault for gold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and what's really cool is that it leverages blockchain technology,
Mm-hmm.
which ensures security and transparency. So it's not just a digital idea. You know, it represents real physical gold that's held securely, but the ownership is tracked on a blockchain.
Okay, so not just a concept, there's actual gold backing this.
Exactly. There has to be. Otherwise, it would be worthless.
So if it's something the blockchain, that means it's like Bitcoin.
Well, not exactly. Oh, both use blockchain technology, but there's a key difference. Bitcoin is a digital currency in and of itself,
Yeah,
while a tokenized gold represents ownership of a physical asset.
gotcha. So Bitcoin is its own thing, whereas this is tied to something real in the real world.
Right. So think of it this way. A company securely stores a gold bar and then divides ownership of that bar into digital tokens. Each token represents a fraction of the real gold, and you can trade these tokens on specialized platforms.
So it's like owning a slice of a gold bar.
Exactly. But instead of carrying it around, it's safely stored, and you have a digital token to prove your ownership. This digital token is what's actually traded.
Ah, that makes sense. So the token is like a stand-in for the actual gold.
Exactly. And because it's on a blockchain, you have a transparent record of ownership.
Oh, so that makes it way more secure.
Right. It's incredibly secure, and it's very difficult to counterfeit.
So is there only one type of blockchain used for this?
That's a great question. Because actually, different platforms might use different types of blockchains. So each blockchain has its own kind of implications for the security and accessibility of the tokenized gold.
I see.
Some platforms use public blockchains, like the ones behind cryptocurrencies, but others might opt for a permissioned blockchain,
Uh-huh.
which offers more control and privacy.
Oh, so there are options depending on what someone's looking for.
Exactly. Now, one thing that's really interesting is that you've got the SEC and CFTC involved in this too.
Oh, really? So the government's getting involved already?
Yeah, they're definitely interested. I mean, both agencies want to make sure that these tokenized gold platforms operate within the existing regulatory framework,
Yeah.
which is really important for investor protection and market stability.
So it's a good sign that they're getting involved early on.
Right. They want to make sure that these tokens actually represent real gold and that the platforms are transparent about their operations.
Yeah, it makes sense they would be concerned about something like that.
Yeah.
Now, one of the articles that you sent mentioned family offices
Yes.
and how they are interested in tokenized gold. Why would a family office be interested in this?
Well, you know, family offices manage a lot of wealth,
Mm.
often across generations.
Right.
So they need investments that are very secure and very stable and easily transferable. Can you imagine the logistical nightmare of physically moving and storing large amounts of gold?
Oh, yeah. That sounds like a headache and a half.
Right. So tokenized gold offers a much more efficient and flexible solution.
I see.
They can buy, sell, or transfer ownership with just a few clicks 24/7 without the hassle of physical transportation or storage.
So almost like gold on demand.
Exactly. It's perfectly suited for today's fast-paced financial world.
It sounds like it. Now, one of the other things that stood out was this idea of fractional ownership.
Oh, yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Sure. So remember how we talked about owning a slice of a gold bar?
Right.
Well, this allows family offices to diversify their portfolio with greater precision.
Okay.
They don't need to buy entire bars. They can invest in smaller fractions and carefully calibrate their exposure to gold.
So it's a more fine-tuned approach than the traditional way of investing in gold.
Exactly. It gives them a level of control that you wouldn't get with traditional gold investments.
But what about passing this digital gold down to future generations?
That's where things get really interesting.
That sounds complicated.
Well, not really. That's where the real game changer comes in. estate planning.
Okay.
So imagine being able to transfer wealth as easily as sending an email. With tokenized gold, it's not just possible. It's efficient and potentially more secure than traditional methods.
This is where things get really interesting. Tell me more about how tokenized gold can revolutionize estate planning.
Okay, so think about the traditional process. You have physical gold, you need to store it securely, and you have to update your will with very specific instructions on how to distribute it. It can be really cumbersome
All right.
and frankly not very adaptable to changing circumstances.
Right. Yeah, it's not really something people want to think about anyway.
No. But with tokenized gold, you can actually use something called smart contracts
Smart contracts.
to automate the entire process.
So like a digital lawyer.
Not quite lawyers, but they are self-executing contracts on the blockchain.
Okay.
And they can automate the transfer of assets based on predetermined conditions.
So it's all pre-programmed.
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, you could set it up to automatically distribute your tokenized gold to your beneficiaries upon your passing, or when they reach a certain age.
Wow, that sounds way smoother than dealing with lawyers and probate courts.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It simplifies things considerably.
It sounds almost too good to be true. Are there any downsides to using smart contracts like this for estate planning?
Well, it's important to remember the technology is powerful, but it's not infallible.
Of course.
There's always the risk of a technical glitch or a vulnerability in the code. So it's crucial to choose reputable platforms and custodians that have a proven track record of security and reliability.
So due diligence is key, just like with any investment.
Right, exactly.
It seems like the potential benefits of using these smart contracts for estate planning with these tokenized assets could be significant.
Absolutely. And this is really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the advantages tokenized gold offers for estate planning.
Oh, we haven't even touched on the tax benefits yet.
Not yet.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. We're going to have to unpack those in the next part of our deep dive. Okay, so let's dive right into those potential tax advantages you mentioned. I mean, who doesn't love a good tax break, especially when it comes to something as valuable as gold?
Absolutely. I mean, it's always best to consult with a tax professional, for specific advice.
Right, of course.
There are some key areas where tokenized gold could offer some tax benefits. So for current holdings and estate planning.
Okay, well, let's hear it. What's the first potential tax perk that comes to mind?
One of the biggest advantages really lies in the enhanced liquidity of tokenized gold. And this really opens up some strategic opportunities for tax optimization,
Okay.
particularly through something called tax loss harvesting.
Tax loss harvesting. That sounds kind of complicated.
It's really not as bad as it sounds.
Okay, good.
It's all about strategically balancing the gains and losses in your portfolio to minimize your tax burden.
Okay.
So let's say you've made some profits on other investments.
Uh-huh.
By selling a portion of your tokenized gold holdings that might be down in value,
Okay.
you can offset those gains with the losses from the tokenized gold.
So you can kind of balance things out a bit.
Exactly. And potentially reduce your overall tax liability for the year.
So it's like offsetting a sunny day with a little bit of rain, financially speaking.
Exactly. It's a great analogy. And this strategy is much easier to execute with tokenized gold because of its high liquidity.
Right.
Because with physical gold, the process of selling to realize a loss,
Oh, yeah.
that can be much slower and more cumbersome.
Right. It makes sense that liquidity would not just be about convenience, but have real tax implications.
Exactly.
But what about the taxes on the gold itself?
Mm-hmm.
Does tokenized gold get treated differently than the physical stuff?
Well, tax laws are always subject to change, of course, but generally,
Right.
tokenized gold is subject to the same capital gains taxes as physical gold.
Okay.
However, there's a nuance here that can work to your advantage.
Ooh, I like the sound of that. Tell me more. What's this nuance?
It all comes down to holding periods.
Okay.
If you hold tokenized gold for more than a year, you qualify for the long-term capital gains rates,
Right.
which are typically lower than the short-term rates.
Yep.
And because tokenized gold is so easy to manage and trade, it can be simpler to strategically time your sales to take advantage of those lower rates.
So patience pays off with tokenized gold, at least from a tax perspective.
Often does.
Now, what about estate taxes?
Yeah.
You mentioned that tokenized gold could potentially offer some advantages there.
It can. Absolutely.
Mm.
So when you pass away, your estate might be subject to estate taxes depending on its value.
Right.
The digital nature of tokenized gold can really streamline that valuation and transfer process,
Okay.
which can potentially reduce the administrative burden and all those associated costs.
So less paperwork.
Potentially much less.
That's always a good thing.
Yes, and plus the use of smart contracts can add another layer of efficiency there too.
Can you give me an example of how a smart contract would help with estate taxes?
Sure. Let's say you want to leave your tokenized gold to your children, but you're a little bit concerned about them receiving a large sum of money all at once.
Makes sense.
You could set up a smart contract that releases portions of their inheritance as they reach certain ages or milestones.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah.
Right. So that can help manage their financial responsibility and potentially minimize the overall estate tax burden.
So almost like a built-in financial advisor,
Yeah, exactly.
making sure there's a responsible transfer of wealth. That's
Okay.
pretty impressive. How does all of this compare to just traditional estate planning with physical gold?
Hmm.
Couldn't you just include the gold bars in your will?
Well, you could, but it comes with its own set of challenges. I mean,
Yeah.
physical gold needs to be stored securely,
Yeah.
which can incur some ongoing costs.
Right.
And if your heirs don't have the knowledge or resources to manage physical gold, they might be forced to sell it quickly,
Ah, I see.
potentially at a less than ideal price.
So tokenized gold offers more flexibility and control for both the current owner and for future generations.
Precisely. And let's not forget the potential savings on probate costs, because the transfer of ownership happens automatically on the blockchain with those smart contracts.
Yeah.
You might be able to bypass some of those lengthy and expensive probate processes that are often associated with traditional inheritance.
So you're saying there are potential tax benefits during your lifetime and even after you're gone.
Potentially, yes.
It's like a win-win for those who are savvy enough to utilize this strategically. But before we get too carried away with all these potential advantages,
Uh-huh.
let's take a step back and compare tokenized gold directly to its physical counterpart.
Good idea.
Now, one of the articles you sent included a really helpful table that outlined some of the key differences.
Yeah.
Perhaps we could walk through that together.
Sure. Yeah, a head-to-head comparison can really highlight the unique advantages of tokenized gold.
Absolutely. So where should we start?
Um,
Let's start with something we've already touched upon.
okay.
Liquidity. So the table states that tokenized gold has high liquidity, while physical gold has low liquidity. Can you remind our listener why this distinction is so crucial?
Sure. It all boils down to speed and efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
So with tokenized gold, you can trade 24/7 anywhere in the world on these blockchain platforms. It's really as simple as a few clicks.
Wow.
Physical gold, on the other hand, requires physical handling, storage, transportation, insurance.
Yeah.
All of that takes time and money.
So if you need to react quickly to market changes or seize a time-sensitive opportunity, tokenized gold has a clear advantage.
Absolutely. It offers a level of agility that you just don't get with physical gold.
Okay, next up. Ownership flexibility.
Okay.
The table highlights fractional ownership as a key benefit of tokenized gold. Why is that so significant?
Well, fractional ownership really makes gold accessible to a much wider range of investors. You don't need to buy an entire gold bar to gain exposure to this asset class.
That's a good
You
point.
can buy a fraction of a bar, which makes it much more affordable
Yeah.
and allows for more precise portfolio allocation.
That makes a lot of sense. It's almost like buying a slice of pie instead of the whole pie.
Uh-huh. I like it.
You get to enjoy the flavor without overindulging.
Exactly. And this flexibility is especially valuable for family offices. They might be managing funds for multiple beneficiaries with different risk tolerances and investment goals.
Right.
They can really tailor their gold holdings to meet specific needs.
Okay. Let's move on to another key difference. Estate planning. The table really emphasizes the seamless integration of tokenized gold with smart contracts and digital wills.
Right.
It all sounds very futuristic, but what does that actually mean for someone who's planning their estate?
Well, it means a simpler, more efficient, a potentially more secure way to pass on your wealth to future generations. Think about the traditional process again. You have physical gold. You need to store it securely,
Yeah.
and you have to update your will with very specific instructions on how to distribute it. And like we said, most people don't enjoy thinking about their own mortality.
Not a fun topic.
No. But with tokenized gold, you can actually program these instructions into a smart contract. So upon a specific event, like you're passing the distribution of your tokenized gold, happens automatically,
Wow.
according to the rules you set.
So it's like having a digital executor,
Yeah,
carrying out your wishes without any emotional attachments or, potential for human error.
exactly. And because everything is recorded on that blockchain, it's transparent and tamper-proof and auditable.
Hmm.
There's a higher level of trust and accountability that's just built into the system.
Wow. That's a powerful advantage when you're dealing with something as valuable as gold.
It is.
Okay, last category on our comparison table here, security. Tokenized gold relies on blockchain security,
Right.
while physical gold faces risks of loss, theft, insurance issues. So for someone who's concerned about protecting their assets, which option really offers more peace of mind?
Oh, this is where the inherent security of blockchain technology really shines. Once a token is created and recorded on the blockchain, it's virtually impossible to counterfeit or steal. The decentralized nature of the blockchain makes it incredibly resilient to attacks.
Hmm.
With physical gold, you always have to worry about theft or damage or even just misplacing it.
Yeah.
And it requires constant vigilance and often involves, significant insurance costs.
It sounds like tokenized gold is basically like having a digital fortress protecting your assets
It is.
versus a physical safe that could be vulnerable to break-ins or natural disasters.
Yeah, a very strong fortress at that.
Yeah.
And it eliminates many of the traditional risks associated with owning that physical gold.
But with any investment, it's important to choose reputable platforms and custodians and do your due diligence.
Oh, absolutely. Now, we've painted a pretty rosy picture of tokenized gold here.
We have.
But to be fair,
Yeah.
let's play devil's advocate for a moment. Are there any downsides or potential risks that our listeners should be aware of?
That's a great question. What comes to mind?
Well, one potential risk is reliance on technology itself.
Okay.
So what happens if there's a major blockchain disruption or a vulnerability is discovered? While these scenarios are unlikely, they're not impossible.
So it's a matter of carefully weighing those potential rewards against the potential risks.
Exactly like with any investment decision.
Right.
And another factor to consider is the evolving regulatory landscape. We mentioned that the SEC and the CFTC are involved,
Right.
but regulations are still being developed. It's important to stay informed about any changes that could impact your investment.
This is where having a trusted financial advisor could be really valuable.
Absolutely.
They can help navigate the complexities of this emerging asset class and make sure that you're making informed decisions.
Absolutely. Seeking expert advice is always a wise move, especially when you're venturing into new financial territory.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive,
We have.
from the basics of tokenization to the potential benefits and risks of tokenized gold.
Yeah.
As we wrap up this part of our discussion, what are your key takeaways for our listener?
I think the main takeaway is that tokenized gold really represents a significant evolution in how we think about and interact with precious metals. It offers this great blend of tradition and innovation,
Yeah.
combining the stability of gold with the efficiency and flexibility of blockchain technology.
It's like a bridge between the old and the new, the tangible and the digital.
I like that.
It seems like it has the potential to democratize access to gold and make it more accessible to a wider range of investors.
Exactly. And for individuals and family offices that are seeking to modernize their portfolios and estate plans, tokenized gold is definitely worth exploring further.
I couldn't agree more. But as with any investment, it's essential to do your research and seek expert advice
Right.
and proceed with a balanced understanding of both the potential rewards and the potential risks.
Of course.
Now, as we head into the final part of our deep dive, let's shift our focus from the present to the future. What lies ahead for tokenized gold? What trends and developments should our listener be watching for in this rapidly evolving space? So we've established that tokenized gold has some serious potential, but it's still relatively new on the scene. What's next? What's on the horizon for this shiny digital asset?
Well, that's what makes this space so exciting. It's evolving so rapidly. As more investors and institutions kind of embrace this idea of tokenization, we can anticipate a surge in adoption.
Yeah.
More sophisticated platforms and maybe even tailored regulatory frameworks.
So it's not just a fad, it's a potential shift in how we view assets.
Exactly. It's about blending traditional value with that cutting-edge technology. And this leads to a really fascinating question. If gold can be tokenized, what's next? Real estate, fine art, intellectual property.
Ooh.
The possibilities are really vast.
Wow, that opens up a whole new world. Imagine owning a piece of a famous painting
Right.
or a share of a valuable patent just as easily as trading tokenized gold.
That future might be closer than we think. And the implications are huge. especially for those family offices that are managing those complex assets across generations.
Yeah.
Imagine the efficiency of transferring ownership of a vineyard or a collection of rare manuscripts with a click of a button,
Wow.
all while maintaining this clear, secure record on a blockchain.
It sounds almost too good to be true. But as we've discussed with any new technology, there are going to be challenges to overcome. Are there any potential roadblocks that you foresee on this path toward widespread tokenization?
Certainly, I think one major hurdle is regulatory uncertainty.
Okay.
Governments around the world are still grappling with how to classify and regulate these tokenized assets. Clear guidelines are going to be essential for that mainstream adoption
Yeah.
and to build trust among investors.
So it's a bit of a waiting game while the legal and regulatory frameworks kind of catch up with the pace of innovation.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of just the technological complexity. While blockchain technology offers incredible security and transparency, it can also be daunting for those who aren't familiar with its intricacies.
Right.
So, user-friendly platforms and educational resources are going to be crucial to bridge that knowledge gap and empower a broader range of investors.
That makes sense. It's almost like learning a new language.
Right.
It takes time and effort, but once you grasp those fundamentals, a whole new world of communication opens up.
It is a perfect analogy. And let's not forget the importance of cybersecurity.
Oh, right.
As with any digital asset, tokenized assets are potential targets for hackers.
Yeah.
So robust security measures and that ongoing vigilance are really paramount to protect investors and maintain the integrity of these markets.
So it's a balancing act between embracing the potential of this new technology and mitigating the inherent risks that come with it.
Absolutely. And it's a journey that we're all on together. As investors, technologists, and regulators collaborate to shape this evolving landscape, I think we can really harness the transformative power of tokenization while safeguarding the stability and security of the financial system.
This has been an incredible deep dive. I feel like we've gone from just a basic understanding of what tokenized gold is to a glimpse into the future of finance. What final thought would you leave our listener with as they continue to explore this fascinating world?
I would encourage them to stay curious and have a healthy dose of skepticism. Stay informed about the developments in tokenization, explore the different platforms and perspectives, and never stop asking questions. This is a dynamic space with immense potential, and those who are willing to learn and adapt will be well positioned to capitalize on its transformative power.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's like we've equipped our listener with a treasure map, not just to tokenize gold, but to a whole new world of digital assets and the future of finance.
Indeed. The adventure has just begun.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into tokenized gold. To our listener, thank you so much for joining us on this exciting exploration. Keep learning, stay curious, and we'll catch you on our next deep dive into the world of cutting-edge finance.